Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. It's me, Only Run Very Noob, bringing you more Bravo gameplay. Today we're playing against foray, which I believe is sort of a dark horse in the current format. Um, I think it's a pretty good deck. I honestly think it should probably be played a little bit more. We definitely have a local that's very good on foray. He's kind of like a 5-1 trick, been that way for over a year now. And yeah, I lose to him quite a bit. I don't think it's a great matchup for Bravo, but I don't think it's awful. I think it's pretty 50-50. I'll just talk about my sideboard here. I'm using the list that Oren played in Nationals. So no Warmongers, instead it has Buckle and Buckling Blow. Red. So the cards that aren't in the deck are the Yellow Disable, the Zealous Beltings, the Pulverize, one of the Pummels, Red Unmovable, and the Sigils. I don't like Pulverize against the decks that play Kodachi. It could be wrong because maybe it's just like a fine attack to try to spike turn 1 for like a bunch of damage and get ahead on the life race. I don't like Zealous Belting, but again, like it might be fine. I prefer Pummel. Pummel's one less point, but if you ever get to Pummel like an attack, it's very good. Yellow Disable's out just because it's kind of like it's not great. I'm not too sold on the Yellow Disable. Sigils don't stop mask triggers, although they can get you out from Kodachi lock. I think I'd rather just block than gain 3 though. Red Unmovable is very bad, and the third Pummel is just so I can get down to 60. I do have Red Buckling Blow in. I think if you just kind of like spike it early, it forces them to use armor to block it, which is always nice to open up your other effects you would rather land. I don't think it's great. I think Chokeslam is probably like slightly better, but into this matchup specifically. We win the die roll, we choose to go second, or maybe we lost the die roll and he put us second. Either way, we have 4 blues that we're happy to block with all of them. I never block the first Kodachi. I think if you block the first Kodachi, you're kind of opening yourself up to giving them a mask trigger with if they draw a double strike or anything like that. This Phoenix Flames for 0, which is interesting. It's kind of unfortunate for them that they drew their Phoenix Flame that they probably want a Flame Call for. I guess it turns on the Lava Burst, but we just block it for 6, which is kind of nice. We don't have to worry about them having a bunch of go again attacks into maybe a Snatch, which can get you on turn 0. So we have 3 blues, one of them being Terra Sunder. The other 2 blues turn on a Nothos, so our Terra Sunder would be for 7, and we have Spinal Crush. This is always an interesting spot. I'm not like 100% sure what I'm supposed to do here. We could Terra Sunder for 7 and Arsenal the Spinal. The problem with that is they might just be like super happy to take 7 and still have like a reasonable 2 card in hand one in Arsenal turn, only being down 6. Their 3 card hands can present quite a bit of damage, and if they have a double strike, they could even sometimes trigger mask again after you block Chain Link 2. So I think I tend to just make a surge and dominate the Spinal in this spot. If they don't have defense reaction in Arsenal, the Spinal actually like makes their turn a lot worse than a Terra Sunder on hit would. And it also gives us a surge, which is very solid into the aggro matchups, letting us play Starstruck or Crippling Crush off of two blues, even letting us dominate Spinal off of 2 blues, or play like Buckling Blow off 1 blue, but that's not like too insane. So yeah, here we're just going to dominate Spinal and hope that it gets armor instead of a defense reaction in Arsenal. Kodachi Fi does play like 6 reacts. They play 3 Reinforce the Line, 3 Sink Below, usually, I would say. Not always, though, maybe. Yeah, and getting the Shuko here is great because over the game the Shuko is going to generate like quite a bit of value. I want to say like 5 to 6 value over a 10 to 12 turn game. So getting that equipment's really nice. We see Art of War. We also have a pummeled command and conquer hand that we could play. Not sure we just want to face tank like a 4-card Art of War turn, because there's also a chance that they do not have an arsenal at the end of their turn, which means the pummeled command and conquer isn't as great. Mounting Anger for 5 here. I don't know what the correct line is to do here. We could block with Command and Conquer and an armor. We could block with Command and Conquer and pummel. I think playing the unmovable, pitching our only other blue is probably not a great option. That basically means we won't have a turn at all. And with them already using a bunch of their armor, like, I don't hate using some of our armor, but I would like to preserve armor if possible. Taking 5 is also an option. And it looks like I just take 5. It looks like my thinking was I want to just pummel the Command and Conquer and sort of trade damage here while keeping armor up. Well, I don't block the second Kodachi with the boots, so I guess this Run and Renegade for 5 is getting blocked. I think that's a reasonable block. Keeps the Command and Conquer in hand in case he just wants to Arsenal pass, which he does, which is quite nice. Of course, we can't take that 5 damage or he gets a mask trigger, and we want to prevent that as much as possible. My Fi opponents generally get 0 mask triggers a game, even if it costs me some value, because it's just too much. See a take the tempo, which is an interesting choice. I don't normally see that. That must be like the breaking point slot. This is kind of an ugly hand. I think we're going to try to sink below away one of the reds, looking for a blue so that we can throw red buckling blow off the blue and block like 4 with the sink below, maybe arsenaling the Starstruck since it's such a solid card in the matchup. We haven't seen any reacts yet from him though, so Starstruck unfortunately only attacks for 10. So blocking 7, 1 from hand, and a defense reaction and arsenal or a reinforce kind of stops the whole thing. We do end up sinking below this brand just so we can see what we draw to see how we want to block here. It might give up a little value if they have an attack for 4, but they don't. They pitch a non-zero for Kodachi. We just take the 1, of course. And then, yeah, we just throw buckling blow. Starstruck and Arsenal is way better, I think, than like a Surge or dominating this buckling blow. And if he lets the buckling blow crush him, it's pretty good for us too. We can just like put a counter on Furnace. He ends up using a sink blow on it, which I guess is fine. Like the crush effect is only 1 additional value, but it is 1 additional value, so them using their sink blow so like liberally here on an attack that's not that important leads me to believe they have another one in hand. Starstruck and Arsenal, Spinal Crush, Pummel, and 2 blues. We have a lot of stuff we could do here that involves crown. Like we could crown away a Pummel, looking for a blue to dominate the Starstruck, and then like Arsenal as Spinal. But like I said, he used the sink below like pretty quickly to stop something that wasn't that impactful. So we really got to believe that he has another one in hand, that he just wanted to kind of get the value. We could, I think using crown here might be a little aggressive though. We could just try to block with the spinal at some point and then pummel the hammer, like make a surge, swing with hammer, and then pummel it for just 10 damage, and then it sets up the surge for our Starstruck and Arsenal. I think I like that. We don't block this 3 though. I don't want to block Chain Link 1 if I'm only planning to block with 1 card. And with only 1 card behind, he can't like play an attack and pump it with something like Ancestral Empowerment, so we're just going to take the dagger. Blaze Headlong. Ooh, it looks like I am thinking about Crown here. Yeah, I just used Crown. I wonder what I get rid of here. Yeah, Pummel. Okay. So we can dominate Starstruck and Arsenal Spinal, and he doesn't have a Arsenal, which means he can't have a react in Arsenal. Not sure why he would use his Sink Below last turn. I think it was a little hasty. Him having a Sink Below in Arsenal here would protect him from what we're about to do to him. Of course, he could have a Reinforce the Line in hand, but I just go for this every time when they don't have Arsenal, because they need exactly 3 block Reinforce. And even if they do, they take 3 damage and have a 2-card hand. They end up giving us Mask and Momentum, Flamescale Furnace, and a Sink Below, which is a block I hadn't really considered much, but I think I'm fine with them losing their Mask with us at 27 life. Let's see what kind of hand they protected here. 3-card Spreading Flames hand doesn't seem like it's all that scary. I'm just going to block damage though. Looking to make a surge, throw Spinal, and then Arsenal Sink Below, unless they play something like a Snatch here, which is easy for us to Sink Below. I could have taken 3 extra damage to like dominate the Spinal Crush, but not 100% sure. Maybe that would have been right, but I think I was afraid of like needing to stop. I don't need to stop Mask, so I wasn't afraid of that. Yeah, maybe I'm just trying to be like more efficient here. Because if we dominate the Spinal and he has something in Arsenal anyway, like if he had another Sink Below in hand or something, it's pretty bad. But I think just taking 3 and dominating the Spinal is probably like fine too. This game's really hard. There's a lot of reasonable lines on a lot of different turns, as you see. When I'm rewatching, I don't always know what I should have done. Looks like he miscounted a little bit, because he would have taken 4 with that block. Down and Dirty, that is a very interesting card. I don't normally see that played in Fi, let alone against us. I think their matchup with Dromai is so good that they don't need to tech for it like at all. This is a blocking hand if I've ever seen one. Just block with as many cards from hand as he'll let us. Why do I pass here? Am I looking to Sink Below into a threat? That's kind of greedy. I think I'm just supposed to like block 3 and save my Sink Below. Maybe that's what I was doing when I was looking at my graveyard, was I was counting my threats to see how many of them I still have in my deck. I haven't drawn a Crippling Crush yet. I think I have 1 Spinal and like 2 Starstrucks. But this is certainly kind of aggressive. We get a little lucky. We bink a threat. We bink the Terra Sunder. And here we get to just block 3. Not really caring about stopping the breakpoint, because they only have 2 links. They can't get back the Phoenix Flame. And even if they could, they don't have Mask. And it wouldn't have even triggered Mask because we blocked the first attack. Definitely don't agree with my play there. I think I'm just supposed to like block 3 on the first attack, block 3 on the second attack, and then hammer for 6, keeping the Sink Below and Arsenal. But we got a little lucky and we got a threat. So it worked out for us, but I don't love that play by me. They just take 7, go down to a 2-card hand, which is quite nice for us. With a hand like this, I'm looking to just block with the Showtime, make a Surge, throw Command and Conquer, and Arsenal the Crippling Crush. Definitely not looking to take a ton of damage just to throw Crippling Crush, but I'm not going to block these attacks for 1. So I take 2 double strikes, and then yeah, we're just going to block this Rising Resentment. I guess I could take 3 here though. There's no mask, and just throwing Crippling ruins his whole turn. And Command and Conquer doesn't have a Arsenal to destroy. So maybe just taking 5 and throwing Crippling is fine. But Fi can be kind of it seems like an aggro deck, but it can be kind of like a mid-range value matchup. They have a lot of defense reacts, they have a lot of armor. And they can actually operate on pretty small hands. Their 2-card hands can just be 1/1/4, threatening a mask. Although in this game state, he's not threatening mask. He doesn't have a lot of armor. And his small hands aren't that impactful. We still have quite a bit of armor. Plays Snatch. He leads with Snatch on a 4-card hand, so him Snapdragoning is all but guaranteed here. We're definitely keeping the Crippling Crush on the 2 blues. We're hoping we don't have to block much more than this Snatch, and we can just throw a Crippling and then Arsenal a Crippling. So we'll see what he throws at us here. He pitches a red, which is quite good for us, and he can't even go get Phoenix Flame, I don't think, if I remember correctly, because he drew his second Phoenix Flame early on, and instead of pitching it, he just played it out to turn on a Lava Burst. He even does the undo because he might have forgot that he didn't have a Phoenix Flame. So yeah, this is perfect for us. We can just take this 5 on this Take the Tempo. It's not turned on. And we bring the heat now. We get to Crippling Crush into another turn of Crippling Crush, presumably. While still maintaining 4 armor block for the rest of the game. We could block with Tech Plating for 2 and then 1, and then Crater Fist for 1. And yeah, just throw a Crippling Crush. Crippling Crush off 2 blues is a very good 3-card hand, I think. 11 value by itself is a reasonable 3-card hand. That's a Zealous Belting into Hammer hand. But with the Crush effect, it gets way, way, way better. And as we see here, he has to play a defensive Art of War. He goes buff and banish too, so he doesn't even get to block from Arsenal here. But he's probably just looking for 3 block attacks, so he can 2-card block this to take 3. He doesn't get there, so he has to give us his whole hand. And with a Crippling Crush and Arsenal, we're looking pretty good here. We can guess that what's in his arsenal isn't a defense react because he didn't use it on our Crippling Crush last turn. So I think here I just want to make a Surge and dominate the Spinal Crush. We could just dominate the Crippling Crush and not have an arsenal, but I don't I mean, maybe that's the play. 'Cause how many threats do I have in my deck? 1 Crippling Crush. Oh, this is a fine line too. Just throw the naked Crippling Crush and arsenal the Starstruck. Yeah, I think that's fine. I think dominating the Spinal is okay too. But the Starstruck is actually a better crush effect to land than any of them in your deck. Because it literally just says they can't have a turn. Where Crippling Crush, they could technically still have a turn. Like if we dominated it and they just took 11 down to 7, they'd have 3 cards and they'd be able to do something. If we dominate Spinal Crush and it crushes them, they could still like E-Strike for 7, which is still doing something. But if they get hit by Starstruck for 7, they just can't do a dang thing. We draw basically the perfect hand. We just dominate a Crippling Crush here. We haven't seen a Reinforce the Line yet, so we're kind of playing around Reinforce the Line. Because of course if he blocks 3 and reinforces a Starstruck, he just takes 3. But if he blocks 3 and reinforces the Crippling Crush, he takes 4 and still takes the Crush effect. He ends up taking 11 here to still kind of have a turn. Probably a fine play from him. I think he needs to get back into the game, although blocking 3 and mitigating damage and waiting for us to brick might be a better line from our opponent. I don't know. I'm not really a Fi player. He just Kodachis twice and passes and keeps a card in hand. So the card in his hand is probably like Reinforce the Line, right? Or not. He just says good game down here. So that game was a little interesting. We sort of rolled threats at the end. We got to get a little lucky that he was playing Art of Wars and he drew him at bad times and he had to play defensive Art of Wars. I don't think Fi should even be playing Art of War into Bravo unless they're literally trying to all-in you with like pouncing links. I think having the no blocks is like a huge liability. I think you want to play maybe a more slow mid-range game and just kind of get your value where you can and be sort of conservative. Because a lot of times for Bravo, it can be very costly for us to save a card to dominate them. And they can punish us with Reinforce the Line and Sink Below an Arsenal if we dominate. So yeah, not too sure. All I know is that the local Fi player that's really good doesn't play Art of War into me, and I'm not keeping score, but I would say he beats me more than I beat him. So hopefully that one was fun. Hopefully we learned a little bit. Draw 3 blues and 7 drops back to back to back against Fi seems good, especially when they've used all their armor early on things that weren't hugely impactful. I feel like he used all of his armor to stop. I know he stopped a Starstruck, so that's probably something worth stopping, but his turn wasn't even that great. He went like Spreading Flames into Dagger, Blaze Headlong Dagger or something like not that impressive. So maybe he should have just like taken his lumps and saved his armor. But yeah, hopefully this was a fun one. I'll be back tomorrow with another video. Comment, like, subscribe down below. Let me know what matchups you might want to see so I can keep an eye out for them on Talishar and hit that record button. And yeah, until next time. Thanks.